Hello, and welcome to my presentation on recommendations to reduce childhood obesity to the El Paso Department of Health. My name is Candace Nelson. I'm a Master of Science in Applied Nutrition student at the University of New England. Today we'll talk about childhood obesity and related health conditions in El Paso. We'll talk about the role of childhood obesity, factors leading to childhood obesity, and potential interventions to reduce childhood obesity. A lifetime of medical care for a child with obesity is $19,000 over the cost of care for a child of a normal weight. This is just direct costs. There are also indirect costs. Obesity-related healthcare cost Medicaid $8 billion in 2013. Each case of childhood obesity that could be prevented would mean enough funding to pay for a child's entire year of college tuition. Obesity rates continue to climb nationwide. With that comes increases in heart disease, type 2 diabetes, arthritis, sleep apnea, and reduced life expectancy and lower productivity. By 2030, up to half of the adult population in the United States is expected to be obese. Without intervention, this will put an enormous strain on the U.S. healthcare system. The good news is that recent investments in obesity prevention programs have shown a slight decrease in childhood obesity, but there's still a lot of work to do. It's also worth noting that preventing adult obesity begins with preventing childhood obesity. El Paso provides a unique opportunity to address childhood obesity because the population of Texas is growing at twice the rate of the United States, and it also foreshadows the demographics that the United States are expected to follow. Here's a look at El Paso. It's 52% Hispanic. Residents of border communities have lower educational levels, lower income, higher unemployment, and higher rates of poverty. In fact, 36% of children live in poverty. And 23% of children have food insecurity. 36% of teens and children have overweight or obesity. Childhood obesity is influenced at all levels. At the individual level, children born in Mexico have lower rates of obesity than US-born children. When second-generation children are here, they tend to develop a taste for the standard American diet and adapt a diet that's higher in high-calorie snacks and lower in fruits and vegetable consumption. They also are inactive. They say that they have not enough time or not enough energy to participate in physical activity, and some have home responsibilities that prevent them from maybe joining a sports team or going to a community center or playing with other friends. At the interpersonal level, immigrant families have high rates of poverty, unemployment, and lower household income. This might mean that parents don't have time to supervise their kids outside or drive them to sports practice. They might not have transportation to get there. Parental beliefs also impact weight. This is particularly true for mothers with a history of food insecurity. They tend to see overweight or obesity as something that's normal or something that the child will grow into rather than a problem to fix. Inactive parents also aren't modeling active behaviors for their children. Communities are often seen as unappealing for play. They have heavy traffic, no stoplights, they're high crime areas. Sometimes dogs run in the street and that scares kids, so they don't want to play outside. Also lack of transportation to a lot of low-income neighborhoods and lack of play places in those areas. At the organizational level, it's important to note that Mexican Americans have strong ties to their community and their churches. This is an opportunity for public health officials to grow an intervention based on what's already working in those areas. Children and parents also report that school is an important place for physical activity and healthy eating. At the broader environmental level, summers in Texas are quite hot and it can be difficult to play outside during high heat situations. There's also a lot of fear in this community. Fear of immigration status being exposed or families being separated might forego families from seeking health care or applying for Medicaid or food assistance programs. It's important to note that undocumented family members can apply for assistance on behalf of their eligible family members without exposing their own status. So we've determined that to deal with some of these social determinants of obesity, schools are an ideal place to intervene in childhood obesity. This is because they have physical education equipment and space, children are already there, reducing need for additional transportation, and it works. A 3-year intervention took place among a Mexican origin community in California. The intervention included parent classes and classes for kids on nutrition and physical education. The families were also given vouchers for fruit and vegetable purchase. The intervention successfully slowed the rate of body mass index growth for the children. Another school in Houston, Texas is 95% Mexican American. Those students had physical activity classes with an instructor 4 times a week and nutrition counseling once a week. Families were also invited to attend meetings that were in English and Spanish. After 2 years, the intervention participants maintained their weight status, and the researchers concluded that family involvement was a promising factor. And families didn't just mean parents, it meant it extended families too to be culturally sensitive. A third intervention took place in Lubbock and El Paso, Texas. It gave students physical activity and nutrition classes at school, and the students brought home weekly family lessons. All the families were invited to the school twice a month for fun, food, and fitness nights. And researchers found that the students who had stronger family support had lower levels of sedentary behavior. Some barriers to programs like this are that schools are responsible for a child's academic education and must show results on standardized tests. This can mean that time spent on physical activity is reduced in order to focus on academics. There's also a cost involved in training teachers and having supplies for these programs. Our proposal for intervention includes daily physical education classes for children in all grades at school, a nutrition unit with their health classes each year. Family members will be invited to attend open houses at the school. At those open houses, adults can take hands-on cooking and nutrition classes, both in English and Spanish, and there will be take-home materials to reinforce the messages. We'll include a summer program with lunch, so students can come to the school, use the gym, and stay out of the Texas heat. And we'll also include hands-on cooking and nutrition classes for the students at school. We're asking the El Paso Department of Health to help with funding and training for supplies to implement the program. We're also working with the El Paso Independent School District to provide teachers and space for the program. We're working with the University of Texas at El Paso to send students in the nursing, health sciences, and education programs to teach the students lessons and monitor the students. And then we're working with the Federal Summer Food Service Program and Fresh Fruit and Vegetable Program to make sure the families have healthy food at home and that those summer lunches are provided. Finally, we're asking the Texas Health and Human Services Department for a grant to support the program. In summary, the current 30% obesity rate is costing Medicaid $8 billion a year. If we can prevent childhood obesity, we can use that money on something else. Residents of Mexican origin are at increased risk, making this an important population to reach. El Paso is uniquely positioned to lead that change. So we're implementing a school-based intervention to slow BMI growth, and we're asking for funding for a school-based program to address the social determinants of obesity in El Paso and increase physical activity, nutrition education, and fruit and vegetable consumption. Thank you for listening today.